This is Aaron Levine with another episode of the And Insurance podcast, where we talk about business and personal related items, things that can help you when you're buying a home today, because we have Jonathan Moses, High Point Home Inspection, sitting with us today. One thing I like when we're writing a homeowner's insurance policy is to actually look at the inspection report, right? So I thought it was perfect to bring John in to kind of talk about the inspection process, why we do inspections, and then obviously tie it back to insurance, because that's what I do. So John, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. Tell me a little bit about High Point Home Inspections. When did you start it? Give me like that 45-second background.
The tone of this is so much more professional than what I thought it was going to be when I sat down.
Should we start over?
You should have heard us. No, that's fine. So High Point Home Inspection, my company that I formed, I guess, in 2018. Here's how that happened. Me and my wife bought a home, and we had a home inspector that I trailed, and I was like, I could do this. And lo and behold. So I used to buy and fix houses in Massachusetts, and a lot of the same sort of skill set applies when you're going in and evaluating and basically doing a rehab estimate.
Okay.
So it was a pretty I had a little bit of a background. Everybody in that home inspection course comes from some line of building, contractor work, something.
Not everybody. You've got to want to get dirty. I mean,
you got to, it's just a part of it,
Right. But you're clean today, right? You didn't come.
I changed my shirt for this.
You changed your shirt. All right. Yeah. Good, perfect.
Almost makeup.
So you're in New Jersey by way of Massachusetts, by way of Canada.
Yes.
Got it. So you're just working your way.
Eventually I'll be in Florida like everyone.
Like everyone else.
Until the swamp water rises.
Well, who knows, with all the storms that we've been having lately. It's been a little bit aggressive out there, and hopefully it'll calm down for 2022.
That's got to be a
not.
Goddamn insurance mess.
It's challenging, right? With all these storms, and Ida came through not too long ago, and you have these areas that are not technically in high risk flood zones, right? High risk, they're in moderate risk because everybody's in a moderate risk unless you're in the high risk, and they get wiped out. They don't have flood insurance, and when we offer flood insurance, a lot of people decline it.
Of course,
because they say I'm not in a flood zone when everybody's in a flood zone. And FEMA comes and writes you a check for $36,000 and says, "See you later, bye." And then some people that did have flood insurance in those areas, all these old homes have basements. Really, nothing in your basement is covered under flood insurance either. So there's a lot of caveats. I don't want to go into flood insurance. That's a whole nother episode. I think I did one not too long ago.
Should I get flood insurance on my house?
But when we're inspecting a house, when big storms roll through, right? If I'm buying a house, John, I want to know if this house has any damage underneath, right? So go through the inspection process, a little bit about what you do and, what makes you you.
Okay. So, for those of you, for the uninitiated, a home inspection takes anywhere from sort of 2 to 2.5 hours, and it's top to bottom, sort of soup to nuts. We can get on the roof if we get on it, or we'll send a drone up. I say we like there's more than me. I guess home inspectors in general.
You can use the word we. It sounds better.
We'll use a drone if it's
Are you an FAA pilot? Do you have your pilot's license? Got it.
Yes.
It's a good thing I don't insure this guy.
And then, if basement, obviously we look in the basement, but it's the crawl spaces are the spots that nobody wants to get under. Right. And, you still see some places that either took damage from Sandy or had damage repaired, and the repairs just aren't up to snuff. I was in a place in Rumson, and they spray foamed the entire crawl space, which is great. But, that's what you want to see.
Sounds good.
But the wood wasn't dry when they sprayed it. So they basically trapped all that moisture into that wood so that when a lot of the carrying beams, you could put a screwdriver right through it.
So, but how did you know, or that those were the exposed beams under the floor?
Those, right.
So you could still see them. Okay.
Exactly. There was a little bit of exposure, usually like the face or the bottom of the joist.
Okay.
So yeah, and now it's crazy. I don't know if it was just because it was such a a humid summer.
Right.
But I would say last summer, 6 out of 10 crawl spaces I got into had some sort of mold going.
Who wants to do
Now
the
it's way
work
more.
in their crawl space? I mean, let's be honest.
Miserable.
Right. Granted, I spent $8,000 in my crawl space last year, getting French drains put in and vapor barriers and drainage matting. And the only thing I didn't do is a dehumidifier because I didn't want to spend any more money. But
Right.
I mean, the foundation is the most important part of your home. Believe it or not, it's not the kitchen. It's not the bedroom. That's the most fun part of your home. It's that foundation, right? That crawl space is important to keep it dry and.
I mean, well,
right.
I would say 90% of the places that I'm inspecting now, crawl spaces have some sort of mold.
Sure.
Not always the toxic stuff, but
people freak out when they hear the word mold.
They freak out when they hear it, when meanwhile the homeowner's been living with it for 5, 10, 15 years, and there's nothing.
Right.
Unless you've got like a serious allergy, it's probably going to be nothing. But you want to deal with it when you find it because you don't want to let it go another 5, 10, 15 years because then you're going to start to get some damage. And it's not even that necessarily the mold will do it, but it's growing because of the moist conditions, and the moist conditions is going to be what sort of starts to rot things or invite termites and stuff like that. So you want to do exactly what you did, which is waterproof it or keep it out best you can. And it sounds like for $8,000 you got a good deal because really most of these guys. First of all, whenever I'm in here, whenever I'm crawling around there for 15 minutes, I'm like, who is the guy that has to spend 8 hours in this space installing stuff from his back? Whatever they're getting paid, it's worth it.
Dude, it was they were there for I think it was 3 days worth of work, and you could hear the guys under there, and and I've been in the crawl space, and I think it's like I've got like 36 inches, maybe less.
Yeah,
and they're chopping concrete up and throwing boulders out because they gotta pour more concrete and put these drains in, and
working.
They're just like living in there. We also had some insulation work done down there at a previous time, and insulating the vents, the pipes, whatever is down there took a whole day, and these guys were just like, I felt bad for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, are these guys living down there? Like,
and usually this is guys' bread and butter. Like, this is what they're doing all day, every day.
It's brutal. From an insurance perspective,
brutal.
Workers' comp is not so cheap for that either. But anyway, back to the inspections. There was a period of time, right, where buyers were panic buying houses. I think we've settled maybe a little bit.
I think so.
Maybe we're hitting that plateau. So nobody's waiving inspections anymore.
Right.
And whoever waived an inspection before was just kind of silly because they didn't know what they were getting into. We had a buyer buy a house, waived inspection, found out the roof was all jacked up a week later, and is out another $10,000 to get a whole roof replacement.
For sure. I've heard.
It's like, can I put a claim into my insurance? I'm like, for what? Your insurance started yesterday. You don't get a claim for what you didn't inspect and get taken care of previously.
Right.
So the home inspection, super important because you can also use it to get out of your contract if you find something critical in there, right? Life safety issues.
That's the big thing. I mean, it's funny.
It's huge.
Now you hear people say structural, mechanical, or environmental.
Right.
And really that's what you're looking for to begin with.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to know about the foundation, you want to know about the systems, and then you want to know if there's any, maybe there's mold growing somewhere or radon gas or something like that that's coming up through, the crawl space or the basement. You don't care if 6 outlets don't work throughout the house or if one window doesn't stay open, and some people will bang you over the head over that stuff.
But I want to know.
That stuff's gone.
Because I want to have that punch list.
Yeah.
To get things fixed anyway. Right. So that punch list is huge.
It's always, what are they called? Honey-do lists.
Right.
I haven't fixed everything on my punch list from the house that I bought 5 years ago, but you prioritize and you start going down. Start going down the list. The roof is done.
Crawl space was on my punch list. The roof is next on the list. My wife would rather us do something more cosmetic.
Yeah,
but
of course. Yeah, we just nailed the roof, and then the next was we got to get some support beams down in my basement, which requires me cleaning the basement because it's embarrassing.
Good luck with that.
Right. So, but then that's next, and then siding is after that.
So in it, let's go back to the basement, crawl space, basement, right? Structural issues. You said you need support beams in your basement at your own home.
Yep.
When you're doing a home inspection for somebody that has a basement, how do you know if there could potentially be a structural issue, right? You're not an engineer.
Yep.
Right? You're not certifying anything, but you're looking for certain things that could,
right. So
raise a flag.
The big ones are, all the foundation walls bowing.
Oh,
so that's big. If there's a big old horizontal crack across the wall, that's big. If you see some, significant step cracking, any gaps larger than 1/8 of an inch on the foundation, even if it's vertical, the vertical stuff you tend not to worry about too much. But, if you see a big old, and I've seen them,
right.
Or there's a vertical crack and one wall is kind of pushed out, that stuff, is pretty obvious. And I feel like, you Google foundation problems.
Right.
Horizontal crack is the first thing that comes up because you got people walking in the house like, are there any horizontal cracks? Yes, as a matter of fact, there are. Now, those are sort of the
WebMD for houses.
Exactly. Those are the easy ones, but it's like if I'm walking on a floor and there's, a lot of inflection in the floor, then I'll go downstairs and see what it's sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
Are the floor joists split somewhere? Are there, proper support posts? Are the support posts temporary or permanent? Because sometimes they'll use those old lolly columns with the little crank, and you use those to jack the house up so that you can put in a permanent post.
Right.
And some people leave those as a permanent structure. Now, truthfully, if it's been sitting there for 10 years, is it going to move? Probably not.
Right.
But you get in there, and sometimes the bottom of them are rusted out, and then you don't know.
Right.
Then they come knocking on your door 5 years later when something fails.
No coverage for that. So wear and tear issues are tricky, right? Because I've got to put $10,000 into fixing my house. Can insurance pay for it? Well, the answer is typically no. Insurance is going to pay for an accident that occurs, right? We need to know that on this date, this storm happened, this event occurred because of that storm, or because a car drove through the back of your house, or because, a fire happened or something exploded, or there's got to be an incident that occurs in order for the insurance company to really pay, right? These old claims of, and going back to the mold thing, right? I have mold. Okay. Insurance doesn't cover mold. Well, it says it right here on my declaration page that insurance covers mold. No, because the mold that you want it to cover is because there's been an ongoing moisture-related issue for the last 10 years, and we're not covering you from 10 years ago. If you have a water-related issue and it's high humidity and no air conditioning and everything gets screwed up and you get mold because you have a pipe burst that way, then we'll cover some mold, right? But we still have to pinpoint that cause of loss. Why did it start? And why did it continue to grow? So the, old maintenance, wear and tear related issues, I neglected it for 10 years. Let's let the insurance company pay for it later. Doesn't really, doesn't fly.
Before we got the roof, my wife was like, why don't we just get insurance to cover it? We'll claim it as hail damage. I'm like, it's a 30-year-old roof. We knew we had to replace it when we bought this place.
It's not Florida. So in Florida, there's an pandemic, something going on with roofs in Florida. Florida insurance is the hardest place. Like, people want to go to Florida, buy a house. Oh, it's cheap, I'm going to move to Florida. Then you get your insurance bill is $7,000 to $10,000 a year for a regular small house.
Wow, because of hurricane damage.
No big deal. But there was a period of time where roofers were able to go around, and there was a loophole in these Florida law policies that they would get roofs replaced because of storm damage, because Florida has so many storms.
Right.
And then these people's insurance policies would actually get cheaper because they have a new roof. So they get a new roof and then get cheaper insurance and not have to come out of pocket with anything. Totally wild. And
probably, if you're the roofer who knows that loophole, you made out be busy.
You made out very well for a while, and I think there was some 4-letter F words going on, fraud. That's $5. Damn it. So close. I got to tell jokes. So, when you're sitting with a comedian, comedian John Moses, find him on Instagram. You have a live show coming up. You're doing like a recording, like an album thing.
Yeah. Third album, which are all available on, Amazon, iTunes, all that stuff. They get played on Sirius. It's at it's December 9th at Uncle Vinny's in Point Pleasant.
Awesome. So, we'll make sure to shout it out again.
Yeah, please come.
Let's go back to the home inspection stuff, even though we can talk about the comedy show.
I became a home inspector so that I can afford to do comedy. But anyway.
Now, do you tell home inspection jokes or
no?
Why not? This is not funny enough.
Not yet. If I'm doing like a realtor conference, then I'll squeak a couple in,
There you go. You're available in December for triple play to
there we go.
see if you can get you a booking down there.
I'm pretty sure I can wheel an attorney in too. So.
All right. So anyway, going back to the inspection, basement supports, roof, right? So let's talk about the roof. When I ask for an inspection report, when we're writing a homeowner's policy, we like to see the inspection report because we want to look at the electrical panel. We want to look and see what, the AC units, the HVAC system looks like, not because we're inspecting it, just because we want to see an approximate year of update for certain systems. And then the roof is one of the most critical components because Zillow doesn't show me roof pictures.
Right.
But the home inspection report does. How are you getting on the roof and what do you look for in a roof?
So anything sort of 1 to 2 stories, I'll jump on the roof, but not necessarily all 2 stories. If like the access is anything above an 18-foot ladder, I'm not making it.
Okay.
And then I'll put the drone up there,
climbing out the attic window.
I've done that too. You look for access points, but so I'll jump on the roof if I can do it. Some of these, the new architectural shingles that have been around for probably 25, 30 years. It can be a little difficult to give you guys an age on it,
right?
Because it could be 5 years and installed poorly,
right?
Or it could be 15 years and installed really well, and it's just not catching a lot of sun or tree damage, so it looks like it's in good shape. Anytime you see those old 3-tab shingle, it's just about kicked because they stopped putting them up for the most part, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
Occasionally you'll see like a builder who just was sitting on a warehouse load of those things. And it's like, 7 years old. You're like, how the hell did that happen? But, you're looking for wear and tear up there. You're looking for, the penetrations. Are they properly flashed? You look around the chimney. You want to make sure that's flashed. My whole job, 90% of my job is making sure that water stays out of the structure. And once it's in, it's not leaking, the plumbing, and then a little bit of electric, but that's mostly it. So we're just looking for entry points. We're looking at the gutters, making sure the water's getting pushed away, and behind the gutters if we can see anything. Then any old rot, any old damage, it's going to be on there. I like to put about 10 pictures up on the roof, before we even get into specific areas where there might be damage, just to give the homeowner an idea of the condition, and then also you guys. You know?
The homeowner doesn't always know, what questions to ask. They're like, okay, my realtor told me to get an inspection report. Right. And they think, okay, great, I'm going to use this to nitpick and get $1,000 off.
What you should get.
At closing.
Yeah.
Right.
What you should get.
It's $1,000 and your mortgage is 30 years. It's like 4 cents a month.
Yeah. You're saving your $1.50 or whatever.
You can't even buy a cup of coffee for that anymore.
Yeah. What you want is your lawyer to get you the $1,000 cashback check so you can go out and buy a TV or something. But anyway.
There you go. Exactly. But when we're looking at the inspection report, we want to see the roof, we want to see the mechanicals, the electronics, and see everything going on. But from a homeowner, from a home buyer's perspective, do you kind of review the report and give them some extra tips, or you kind of just pass it off and say, here, send this to your lawyer, you're kind of on your own? Like, how involved are you in the process? And
it depends.
There's got to be a line in the sand somewhere.
It depends on it really does depend on the buyer. Like first time home buyers are spending a little more time talking them through it, explaining sort of what's a big deal and what isn't.
Right.
And again, you still want to have everything on there because it's a punch. At the end of the day, whatever's not covered becomes a punch list item.
Sure.
So you'll spend a little more time with them. At the end of my reports, there's a summary page. I say cut right to the summary page. It's an 86-page report. The summary is going to be 3 or 4 pages, and that's where all the items are going to be that you're concerned with. And then we can go over that. And maybe 2 out of 10 people call me to go over something, but most people are
right.
By the time it gets handed off through the realtor and the attorney, I never hear from them again. So.
Right. That's good. As long as it gets them to the closing table.
Yeah.
Gives them that punch list. But it's like, we're here today to help these buyers and help new home buyers understand that the inspection report can be used for a little bit more than just being an expense and, trying to be a negotiating tool to get a couple of bucks back at closing. If there's something critical, one, you want to be able to get the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
Or renegotiate
get enough money.
At
right.
that
Get
point.
enough money so that it, that you can handle it.
If there's something serious, when I see a report and the roof is in bad shape, the buyer's like, oh, they said it was only 10 years old. I said, well, the insurance company is going to come out and inspect this, and they're going to want it replaced.
Yeah. I always find that whatever the seller says, you can add 3 to 5 years to it.
Right.
Generally. They're like, oh, we had the roof done 3 years ago.
As long as it's in the seller's disclosure.
Right.
We've used the seller's disclosure also to negotiate with the insurance company to, keep things intact, right? I always tell people I'm lazy. I want to do it right the first time.
Right.
I don't want to write a policy and say you have a new roof when your roof is old and then it gets canceled or the price gets jacked up at the end of the day. Like, let's just do it right the first time. Look at the inspection report, look at the seller's disclosure, and my team will take that extra time to make sure that everything is good. It's not up to me to tell the buyer that they're going to need a new roof and they should negotiate back with the sellers. That's, I try to stay out of that.
It's not
point certain things out,
right,
but
right.
I also don't want to overstep,
I also come from a rehab background. So I try and explain to people, like, this is how much it would cost approximately to fix it.
Right. That's good.
And it's not that big a deal, or this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And make sure you're either A, negotiating, or B, you might want to walk away. It depends on, depends on your appetite for rehab yourself, Right. But I always like to come armed with some solutions. And then I know a couple of guys in a couple of different trades that I can recommend. Because I know they do good quality work,
right?
And that's
just tough right now. Finding good contractors is
oh my god, anybody
is near impossible.
Just to get someone to show up right now is a big deal.
Right, you should be happy when someone shows up, but also be scared when they show up because there's a reason they don't have any work going on. So
if they're available tomorrow, it's a problem.
It kind of goes. It kind of goes both ways. So you said you're into rehabs. Are you doing any projects right now? What's
nothing? But we're always out there skimming the water.
Okay,
but I got nothing cooking right now.
So on your way here, you said you were doing a commercial inspection. Is that a little bit different than a normal home inspection, or
a little bit
along the same lines? Still looking at systems.
Same lines. I mean, it was a bar with 2 units up top, so it's along the same lines. It's on a slab. You get downstairs, a little more electrical, bigger heating unit, but for the most part, a lot more fridges.
Right.
But for the most part, you're looking for the
test
same things.
The tap lines.
Yeah. All the kegs were gone. Not a part of the sale.
Oh well.
Yeah.
So you do that as well then? You'll do some commercial inspections depending on what it is?
Exactly. Sort of, small commercial, sort of like 4 units to 6 units,
right.
1 or 2 storefronts.
So some small mixed use
I feel
stuff.
comfortable with that. If you're looking for a 5,000 square foot warehouse, it's a little bit above my pay grade right now.
Most of those guys aren't getting inspections anyway.
Yeah, right.
At that point, it's just not happening. They'll look at the equipment and look at the HVAC system and be like,
yeah,
we'll just buy it anyway. We're good.
Yeah,
it's going to be the tenant's responsibility to upgrade and fix everything anyway. So
there you go.
Why not? So what tips can you give to home buyers, to new homeowners, to first time folks, when they're getting ready to hire an inspector? Hopefully it's High Point Home Inspections or somebody else really, really good like John. But what are some of the tips when you're hiring a home inspector and trying to get this done? Or are you just like taking your realtor's recommendation and just running with it and not worrying about it?
I think most of the people out there are pretty credible. It's funny because a realtor asked me to re-inspect a place for a seller. And they had already had 2 previous inspections, and I looked at the 2 reports, and I said, I don't know what you want me to do now.
Right.
I think those are, like, you might get 1 bad inspector, but the chances of you getting 2 in a row,
What were they trying to? They were trying to get something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you just got to go with the recommendations. You know what I mean? Like these guys said, remove this and fix the roof. Like you just got to do it. You just got to bite the bullet and do it.
Sure.
So I don't know. Google people. Recommendations from people that you know and trust are always good. And then as far as what you can do when you're walking into a place, a couple of quick tips. Again, if you see those old school 3-tab shingles, that they look like cartoon teeth, right? Like it's got the little gap there and it's in a row. As soon as you see that, the roof's on the way out. You want to make sure that the downspouts are terminating away from the foundation. If they're right on top of the corners there, you might have a water problem in the crawl space or in the foundation. And if you got anything sort of built, year 2000 and later, you don't have to worry about tank sweeps, lead tests, stuff like that.
Right.
As you start to go back through the years, if you got a house that's 1900, you need everything. Termite, tank, radon. There's going to be lead. There's probably some asbestos in the walls.
Right.
You probably don't have to worry about it, but it's there, So, but if it's like, a newer construction, still get it anyway, but you might not get your $1,000 back at the closing table. That's
Sure.
all.
Termites is a big one.
Yeah.
All these old houses around. I mean, do you see a lot of that, or do you bring somebody else in to do the
I bring
pest?
somebody else. They, but I recommend one or two companies, and they come out, I would say, 8 times out of 10. And it's usually pretty like localized damage.
Right.
And it's usually underneath the front door. Water's getting, in through there. One time I saw so much termite damage, I thought this guy was going to run. He was a rehabber. The floors in the place were like this. There was an opening in the floor. I reached in, grabbed the joist, and pulled a piece of the joist out with my hand and crumbled it.
Oh my God.
He bought the place and reframed the floors. I was
Wow.
For what discount? I don't know. I ran into him later. He goes, "Oh, that place was great. It was a home run. I made $30,000." I go, $30,000? You built a new house.
You're lucky to make $30,000. That's why he was happy about it. Could have lost a lot more.
Damn right,
so
man. Damn
that's
right.
wild. Well, listen, John, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, man. This is
if
great.
you
The studio's
need
great.
John Moses, High Point Home Inspections, his information will be somewhere in this YouTube and podcast and wherever else we're going to post this. But Google him, High Point Home Inspection,
Or-
Jonathan Moses.
If maybe Facebook sends you an ad just because you were listening to this episode. That'd be great.
He's got his retargeting going.
Yeah.
So awesome, John. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Thanks for having me, buddy.